the work of an Iowa-based organization bailing out Benji kind of helped spark this investigation. Can you tell me about that?
That resolution filed in King County Superior Court requires the company to pay the state $3.75 million with interest.
Bailing out Benji regularly looks through these records of dogs' movement from state to state.
Bailing out Benji
played a key part in unraveling a nationwide puppy scheme.
Bailing out Benji,
an organization that's been working across the country to stop the pipeline of puppy mill breeders.
Bailing out Benji.
I will use my voice because they don't have one, and I will keep doing it until there are no more puppy mill dogs.
Well, hello, Devon. How are you?
I am great. How are you?
I'm doing really, really well. Did you say it was hot in Indiana today?
Yes, very much so. Very much so.
Yeah, it has been super hot here and very, very rainy. Surprisingly rainy for it being the end of June. So I hope you and your pups have all been able to handle all of that well.
Yep.
Yeah.
The AC is running on high, and they are stretched out in there and just enjoying the AC weather.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, my dogs, I can't even get them to go outside. Like truly, and when it's raining, it's even worse. They definitely don't want to go out to go potty. But anyway.
Yeah. And this weather is real hard on the canines too. It's probably just as hard as it is for us as humans. You know, I see Nitro in the house. He's usually sprawled out somewhere flat on a hard surface floor, just trying to get the cool from the floor.
Right. Nitro's so cute.
Yep.
So can I ask, how did your family get into dog breeding? Was this something you started, or was it your parents?
So after my wife and I got married, we lived on a smaller property, and with Dad working away from home, we were looking for something as our children grew up that we as a family could be involved with. And through that, we started with a couple dogs, and it was something to where our smaller children could help with, from feeding dogs to socializing puppies and just doing all of the things, and at the same time learning responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
That was kind of where we started with this. And after my wife and I were married for 10 years, we moved from our property that I had bought prior to being married off of a main highway. We were fortunate and bought 16 acres, like a quarter-mile long lane off the road. And from there, we added a couple more acres, and it just kind of evolved from there. And we've been in it ever since.
And your home is beautiful. I've been very lucky to have been invited to visit you all. So, yeah, I love where you live. I'm very envious of your long lane. That's something I want all the time.
Yes, it's nice. We get a lot of comments on that. Actually, we had a gal that came in to do some photos yesterday, and she says, Devon, as I was driving in the lane, a mom deer and her fawn cross over the lane if we see them a lot. And I says, yes, we see them pretty much every day. So it's definitely something unique. We can't see any of our neighbors, because we're surrounded by woods, and so obviously they can't see us either. So that makes it very nice for us.
That's the dream. That's truly the dream. But you've seen, in your breeding work, you've seen a lot of improvements across, since you began. You've seen a change, I guess we'll say, in the breeding community. Do you want to talk about that at all? Like how you were doing things to how your kennels look now, maybe?
Right. So, as time progressed, one of the things that I can say for myself, and I believe it's for a lot of us as human beings, we don't adapt to change well. It's something we push back on. But from where the industry was in early 2000 to where it is today is absolutely phenomenal and mind-boggling to myself. We did, I will admit this, when we started raising puppies, we had what we called the double stack kennels. And at that point, that was kind of the Cadillac of doing the way to do things. And I just never could really vision it being done in a different way. But as public perception, public demand asked for different environments, those things changed. And we made some changes, some drastic changes. And sometimes I stop and think of where, if the world stands for another 5 years or 10 years or a couple of decades, where will it be? From the smaller pens, which we thought was okay, and now I strongly disagree with it, to where our dogs are housed now with big inside runs, Corian countertop as dividers, 5 different surfaces, get to exercise every day, are in AC, and just have the luxury of life, compared to what it was. And, with some of the programs we're involved with, and the socialization we do with puppies, with our moms and dads, and the things that we set up in our program for our moms and dads after they retire, to where they can live in a family setting. They're used to toilet stools being flushed. They're used to going up steps. They're used to music, and just all those things that they will encounter in life as time goes on. And, the way the puppies, after they're 4 or 5 weeks old, how they're introduced with other litters to learn to socialize with other animals and get along with other animals, and how you can identify, how you have same as us as people, somebody that's more laid back, timid, shy. You have the same puppies. And then we look at it as our retired adults are ready to be retired. There's people out there in the general public that are looking for that nice 8-week-old puppy, but then there's also older gentlemen, older ladies that are looking for maybe a lap dog that is very content to lay on the lap all day and not going through those horrible up to a year old chewing things and stuff like that. So those are the things that we try to do in our program, is set them up for a very bright future, to where they can adapt very well.
And I love that. And there's no shame in this, but that is relatively new to your program, right? The socialization of the adults and the rehoming of the adults.
It is. We've been involved with this program, Canine Care Certified, which is a science-based entity coming from Purdue University, which is, as we all know, Purdue is very high on animal veterinary stuff like that. So this is where we're involved with, and it's not something that was put together thinking it would work. We've been involved with some of their pilot programs on trying to see what works and what doesn't work, and it's just absolutely amazing where this program has taken the industry. And I think as time goes on, I think it'll take it to another step or two from where it is today.
And that's, we've been talking a little bit on our show about the Canine Care Program, and we revisited our webinar that we gave last fall, and we've talked about our visits and things. And I keep telling everybody that more education for breeders is never a bad thing. And that's what Purdue provided for you and for your community that the USDA wasn't providing, right? This educational component that was backed with science was really helpful for you.
Absolutely. Very, very helpful for us. And, and again, it's an ongoing thing. It's something that I feel that Purdue will never cease learning and trying new avenues of different things. One of the things that I feel is very different than it used to be is from maybe one surface that a dog was maybe born on and raised his entire life, to where, these kennels, you don't see any wiring anymore, and that was a big thing in the past. And I agree, it's something that shouldn't have been. Today it's anywhere from carpet to concrete to plank flooring to artificial turf to real grass, just all kinds of different surfaces that preps that puppy and that adult dog for its forever home.
Right. And there are still kennels, unfortunately, that use the wire flooring, but your community and through this canine care program, you're showing that it doesn't have to be that way. There is a better way for the dogs, and it also helps you as the owner of the facility.
Absolutely true. Absolutely true. And, one thing that's unique, and I'm talking for myself here, is I am as much against a substandard kennel as anybody is out there. I think, we were put here on earth by God, and God gave us sovereignty over our animals, but not to abuse or be cruel to them. And I think with the settings and what is available today, there is no reason that these animals can't be treated very humanely and taken care of. And, our dogs actually probably have a better life than, well, for example, we don't have AC in the house, but the dogs have AC in the kennels. That's one of the things that, they're living a better life than we are.
You're like, oh no, I have to go do chores in the kennels today.
My wife says, "Why do you spend so much time in the kennel?" And I says, "Well, that's where it's nice to work." And she says, "Well, then you do that, and we'll do the garden stuff in the morning."
I love that. I love that.
Yep.
And I have been to your kennel, and I'll never forget the first time I visited. You were so proud to show me how you measure the progesterone, right, with the females.
Yeah. Yes. And on that note, so we with the canine care standards, we are limited on our females. All adult females have to be seen by our attending veterinarian. And by the way, there's people that feel some kennels don't use a veterinarian. Our veterinarian is on site at least once a month, and we will visit the veterinary clinic on an average of 3 or 4 times a month. But she's been our attending veterinarian since 2008. And so every dog has to have a physical before she is ready to be included in the breeding program. So with that, genetic testing, OFA, all of those things are being done. And then going back to your original question on progesterone testing, we will do progesterone testing, which is there's a blood drawn, and then the serum from that is put in a machine, and it will tell you exactly where in her cycle the mom is, to where the mating will only happen once or twice. And what is the great thing about that is 63 days later, you're expecting a litter of puppies. And if something should go wrong, the exact ovulation date to where your veterinarian can help you make the determination if the veterinarian needs to do a C-section or if we're still good to wait for another day or two. So those are some of the very positive things that have come along in the past 5 or 10 years.
And so can I ask, we've had some people question, like how Amish families can use things like that. Would you be able to kind of talk about like how your church has to vote on certain things? If you don't want to, that's totally fine. People have just wondered, why can you call me right now? How can your dogs have air conditioning? Like those kinds of questions, and how different that might be for different Amish communities.
So in our community, from one church district to another, it does vary a little bit from what is allowed and what is not allowed. So for us here, we have 2 big solar units. Each one has 16 panels, so there's a total of 32 panels, and that goes into a big storage battery pack, and that is what our kennel is run off of as far as the ACs and the stuff like that. Now we don't have computers, we don't have cell phones. We have a traveling phone separate from our phone that we use daily. Our main phone that we use is in a smaller building away from the house, away from the kennel. It's like a 10 by 10 building where just the phone is at. So when somebody calls, it goes to voicemail. We try to stay on top of our voicemails, even though with some of the responsibility we have in the community and the family and some other things going on, sometimes it's a challenge to keep up with those voicemails because on an average day we get between 25 and 40 phone calls a day. So it can be time consuming to keep on top of those, but that's what our life is about, I guess.
No, thank you for that. And that kind of brings me to when people are talking about, like you're talking about how you don't sell directly to the public and you still get that many phone calls and it's overwhelming. When I met Caleb and Kathleen, you've known them for a long time, they mentioned the same thing. When you're selling directly to the public, how constant the conversations are. People will call at midnight. They will call at 1 a.m. They have no problem telling you they want a puppy at any given time. And so that is also kind of a barrier for breeders who may not have another option besides selling through a broker or through a store, right?
Right. And so there are plain people that make the decision to sell what we call retail, and that's directly to the consumer. But then there's also not just plain people, conservative people, but others too that might sell to a broker. So our reason for making this decision is it goes back to when we started our conversation. We live a quarter-mile long lane. There's trees all the way back. We bought this property for a reason, and that was for privacy. We don't mind if we get visitors like Mindi showing up. That's a great thing. But just to have all kinds of visitors showing up is not our desire. And also with that, with us not having a cell phone or a computer, it seems in today's age and society, if an email is sent and you don't respond, or if there's a text sent, which we can't get text or whatever, you don't respond within 30 minutes to an hour, they will just move on to the next person. So with the setup we have, works great for us. We book our puppies when they are 1 year old, or 1 week old, if I say it right. And at that point, they're microchipped young, and they are confirmed that the broker will take them. But at the same time, the person that we deal with, there's differences in brokers out there. Mm-hmm. There's people. So one thing that they really push for is Canine Care certified, USDA license, and as those renewals are being done, they want to see it. Okay, so were you audited by Canine Care? Were you inspected by USDA? And we are also state licensed. So if something like that shows up, they want to have all that information. Like this week, we were Canine Care audited. Everything went well, even though that goes back to Validus, which is a third-party auditing. It is nothing to do with Purdue. They hire somebody outside to do that. We will, within 14 days, get either a question on why something was done this way, or basically a diploma saying you're good to go for a year. Now, we didn't have any hiccups whatsoever. Everything went well. And with that, all of our dogs, the inspector or the auditor, however you want to call her, she will go into the kennel by herself. So this is a new person going to the kennel, visiting the dogs to see on socialization. So a red dog is one that's very timid, shy, won't come to a stranger. A yellow dog is one that will greet a person, but I'll still just keep my distance. And a green dog is one that says, "Hey, you look okay," comes running up, wants to be patted, wants to lick or something like that. So those are all scores that they give us. And this is something that is quite intense, up to 3 hours of paperwork that they go through. And this is something that as a breeder, you can't make changes the week before the auditor comes. This is something that is being logged every day of the year. Temperature, humidity, ammonia, exercise plans, vet logs, and it just continues like that. So it's very intense. And I'll go back to, again, to the broker or the person that you're selling your puppies to. They want to know where the puppies come from, and then the person that they sell them to want to know where the puppies come. And what's very intriguing is we're unique to poodles, and we have a lot of pet stores that are asking for poodles that come from our facility. So that's always, kind of the shining light for us on that.
And that's a story I actually shared on our show, was when we were visiting an Indiana broker together, and you kind of like dipped into a room, and I followed you, and you leaned over a kennel, and it was your puppies in the brokering facility, which was 3 hours away from your kennel. But all of those puppies recognized you, and they ran up to you, and they were licking your face. And it was, for me as an outsider, and that being my first visit to kennels and to a brokering facility, to me that was really powerful to see the puppies loving you. And they weren't scared of you as their caretaker. They weren't showing me any red behavior or yellow behavior. These little baby puppies saw you as someone that has cared for them for the first 8 weeks of their life, and they were so happy to see you again.
Yep. And that's the big thing that we feel that is very important on some of these programs out there, and primarily talking about Canine Care Certified, is there is a standard for this. It's not as if you can't like buy your auditor or anything like that, because this auditor is from a third party, no affiliation with the breeder, no affiliation with Purdue. And so that goes back to what you alluded to, Mindi, is so our puppies, after the third day after they're born, they are neurological for
Hey, Devon,
usually
can you
not more
stop?
than 20.
Can you start that over again? You cut out. You said that on day 3.
Okay. On day 3, all of our puppies are handled every day, and what we call neurological stimulation. So what we do is basically we personally pick up a puppy, we'll lay it on his back, which is a very unnormal situation for a dog to be in. They're not comfortable laying on their back. That is something that we kind of teach them. We will tickle all of their toes, we will tickle their nose, and then we kind of hold them in a unnormal posture, if that makes sense or whatever. And then as they get up to 3 weeks old, we have outside and inside play areas where I said earlier, we will put 2 or 3 litters of puppies that are close to the same age, so that they learn to get along with the colored puppies, the white puppies, the red puppies, one that's maybe a little bigger. And we have an indoor playhouse to where it has steps, it has ramps, it has inside steps. It's basically a small version of a house, to where, and on that same area where the playhouse is outdoor turf, and then there's also concrete. So there's all kinds of different environments that they are put on to acclimate themselves for their life later on, or whatever. That, some people, we've had people say that when they bought this puppy, it had never touched grass or anything like that. Well, that will never happen from a puppy coming from our facility, unless it's in the middle of the winter to where it's not feasible to take them out, but they still have the artificial turf on the inside.
Mm-hmm. No, I love that. So what is one thing you wish people knew about Amish dog breeders? Like, we know what the stereotype is. We know that people think a certain way. If you could tell people one thing about your community, what would it be?
So that's a good question. So we, with us being, the Plain community and being more reserved, I know we get a lot of blame that is not true, and I believe Mindi might have seen that. Do I think that all kennels, Amish kennels or conservative kennels, are great? No. It's still something that we're still working on. But I just, what's great for us is some of the people that we've had the opportunity to meet with, and Mindi is one of those, is to be open-minded. Come out, let us show, don't be unbiased, or be unbiased, till you've seen it and then make your decision. We had our local legislator that we're good friends with, and we had something going on at the state, and I had called her and had a phone conversation with her, and I just told her that I'd like for her to stop by, and she says, well, Devon, what is this about? And I said, well, it's about a bill that's in the state, and she wanted to know which one it was, and I told her, and she said, well, yeah, she'd love to stop by sometime, and we talked a little more on what would work. And as the conversation progressed, she says, well, Devon, I'm not so far from your house. What if I would be there in 10 minutes? And I said, that's fine. My wife and the family, we're at home. We don't have anything going. She can stop by. So 10 minutes later, she shows up. We go into the family room, and we just chat for a while. And I said, do you want to look at the kennel? She says, yeah, absolutely. That's what I'm here for. And so we walk to the kennel, we go through the office, kind of show her what we do on our some of the machines we have, the paperwork we do, and that end of it. And from there, we walk into the nursery, and this person she's not saying anything, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, so what's going through her mind? Why is she not saying anything? And as we walk into the kennel, as a lot of people know, sometimes kennels are loud. That's one thing we've diligently worked on in the past, is to keep our kennel quiet. I don't think a dog barked when she walked in there. And we walked through there, and I finally asked her, I said, so Joanne, what are you thinking? And she says, Devon, I just can't believe this. And she told me this later. She actually said it in front of a couple hundred people in a public meeting. She said, when I went to Devon's kennel, I had one intent, and that is I figured if I tell him I'll be there in 10 minutes, there is no way that he can have his puppy mill, I don't like to use that word, ready for me. So I figured I'd stop by. And I told Joanne when she got here, I said, I wasn't even in the kennel since you were here. So we walk in there, and she said, I am just totally flabbergasted. I didn't know that puppies and dogs can be raised and treated the way these dogs are. She says, I work in Indianapolis, and, I can walk through this kennel, and we all know that, dogs, same as humans, have a job to do. But she says, when I walk down the sidewalks in Indianapolis, I have to be careful of human feces that I don't step in it. And she says, I don't even see that here. So those are some of the highlights of what we've done in the past is show people that are open-minded what we actually do. There's people that have made the decision of not believing us, and I think those are people maybe you'll never change their mind, but I would still be open to showing them what we do on a daily basis.
Well, and when you and I first met, I was coming from Iowa to southern Indiana to go on a tour, and you are not from that area, but you chose to come and meet me because we both felt the importance of it, right?
Right.
Neither of us knew if we were going to trust each other. And I've said this before, like I went into the kennels with good intentions. I was not there to spy. I was not there to do anything, but I also thought that my mind wasn't going to be changed a little bit. Like I thought that I would still see things that made me think like, yeah, but, and I didn't have that experience. And meeting you and Marietta when you both came down, that's where I spent most of my time. I wanted to get to know you two as people as opposed to seeing every nook and cranny of every kennel we visited.
Yes. And it's been an honor to have you as a friend, and then also meeting your husband. And, when we met the last time again, it wasn't about, yes, we knew about kennels, but it's about our own lives, our daily lives. What do we do and stuff like that? Some of the things that's been, maybe a little disheartening, and this is nothing that Mindi has done, but, some of the accusations that came against us is to take Mindi into some of the areas we did, like our own private school and stuff like that, and being harassed about that. Doesn't make you feel great, but at the same time, if I feel in my heart I am doing what is right, and I have a friend that I trust, we will let the other people make their own decisions.
Right. They're going to come along or get out of the way.
Right.
And we both have. We've both felt that pressure from our sides of the world, which has been really interesting. I kind of thought people would breathe a sigh of relief and be like, finally, we're getting somewhere. Everyone is talking. But instead, we were kind of met with some angries, some angry people.
Yes, very much so. And one thing that that I openly talk to in our communities as far as kennel people and stuff is I say the days of not showing your end consumer, your broker, your pet store, your rehomer, whatever it might be, of where you are housing your mom and dads where these puppies are being raised. I say it's over. If you can't have something that you are okay to show where it's being raised, then maybe you need to think of one of two things: making changes, or maybe you need to change your career. Maybe you should be not be raising puppies, but maybe you should have a woodworking shop or a bakery or something like that. Because the time when you meet at a Walmart parking lot with your end consumer, that person will always leave thinking, well, actually, where was my puppy raised? Even though we as kennel owners have to be careful on the biosecurity, and it's something that Canine Care highly enforces and stresses, same as our Board of Animal Health and USDA, and I think it's very, very important that we follow those guidelines, but it can be done. A lot of times we ask people maybe not to make physical contact with small puppies and something like that if they have visited another kennel or something like that. But away from that, a person that is open-minded, we are open to show them what we do on a daily basis.
Yeah, and you were really proud. So when we went our first trip, there was a discussion on who would even allow Mindy and Alexis to come on their property. But when I came back to visit you the first time, you were very proud to say no one was worried about having us on their property.
Right. Very much so.
Yeah. And I've been so lucky to meet the breeders in your community. And of course, now I've been to some kennels in Iowa and Missouri as well. So I've been able to see different sides and how different communities participate in the canine care program or don't participate. Not every facility I've visited has been canine care certified, but it's been a journey and it's been so much fun getting to know you. I told Jason that you were free to call today, and he told me to tell you hi, and he misses you in Marietta.
Absolutely. Say hi to Jason for us also.
Yeah, and we had so much fun. We tell our friends that we kind of just went on an adult field trip to Indiana, and we got to see how buggies were made. We got to see an egg factory. Like, it was truly a field trip for us. And then, of course, we got to catch up with some old friends, and then we were able to visit one kennel that I hadn't previously been to. But one of the things that I was telling Kristen, my co-host of the show, is that anytime I come to one of these communities, it ends in a big dinner. And everyone wants to talk and ask questions. And I like to think that through those questions, you're all learning as much from me as I am from you.
Absolutely. And one of the things that I think positive on those, like you mentioned, that the conversations that happen at the end after things, have been seen through different eyes or whatever, is at the end of the day, we all have the same goal, and that is, to treat our canine partners with respect. And, that's one thing that we will always do, or if we can't do that, we will not be part of that program.
Right. And this program is voluntary technically, but it is not something you can just volunteer to do. It takes work to do.
Yes, and it's when we were looking at joining this program, it took up to 6 months to a year prior to that, working that way, from working with your attending veterinarian, on paperwork, and then, how are you going to exercise your dogs every day? How will you keep the enrichment there? And just the documentation of it. And then another thing, talking on veterinary care, there's kind of a vibe out there under certain circumstances that these kennels don't provide veterinary care. I would have to ask my wife for sure, but I know in the last 5 to 10 years we have never had an annual fee that was under $50,000 on vet care. So it is something that is very vital to the industry, and I think it's very important that you have a working relationship with your attending veterinarian, not something that you might see your attending veterinarian once a year. I think it's very important for us anyway, having that physical communication with each other, a minimal at the kennel of once a month. It's amazing what can be done from the rabies shots that she gives to the brucellosis tests that are done, the heartworm tests that are done, the physicals that are done. And then, as we progress through this, trying to raise our own standards, our own bar, and that is to have a genetically clear mom and dad, and then also a mom and dad that are OFA clear from hearts, knees, hips, all the things that can be done to what is being produced, or a small puppy, that puppy can also live a long life with the genetic clear moms and the OFA moms and dads. So that's one of the things that we strive for.
I love that. And you can truly tell. I've seen your puppies, and the last time I went, it was kind of funny because in preparation for the dinner, we were all sitting around outside your little campfire area, and one of your puppies was brought out, and immediately all of the people there started feeling for the puppy's hips and knees, and this little 8-week-old puppy was just being passed around by all of these like industry professionals who are immediately checking to see how healthy it was. So, yeah.
Absolutely. And it's just like, we had a couple litters that I sent genetic papers in, and usually that takes 4 to 5 weeks till we get results. But it's kind of like that Christmas morning. You're just waiting till you get those results to see, okay, so what, how are they going to test? And then, it's always a struggle to have a complete clear one, but, sometimes you'll have one that might be a carrier of this disease, but dad might be a carrier of a different disease. But if you put those two together, you have a 50% or better chance that they're not even carriers of that. So as long as they're carriers, they're not affected by the disease. Once they're a double, then they can be affected by the disease. And then at that point is when we have our conversation with our veterinarian, and all the boxes are checked. So we're just trying to improve our program, and it can't be done overnight. It's something that takes time.
Right. But like even hearing you talk about it, you know your stuff, and you know why you're genetically testing. This isn't something that's just a piece of paper for you. It's not a box you're checking. This is your entire passion in your entire life.
Right. It is. It is. Yep.
And last time, I don't want to keep you too much longer. I know you're in your phone building and it's probably not AC. I know it's not AC. Last time I was there, I loved how your son brought out one of your breeding poodles, so not your house dog, and was training the dog to do a little dog show with other Amish children in your community.
Yes.
How is that training going?
It's going great. That actually brings kind of a different. So we had a local, what we call a local chapter meeting this past Monday night, and she did a demonstration for about an hour. She had a dog there, an Australian Shepherd, that she used to kind of show, and this was geared towards our youth. And when I say that, it was basically for anybody that was like 4 or 5 years old, all the way up to 16 years old and older. But we took our worker that works for us in the kennel along to show them how a dog reacts to training that Mindi was alluding to. So do you just throw a collar on them and a leash and just pull them all over? No, you don't do it. It's her theory is, and it's very true, is the positive reinforcement. So when that puppy does something correct, it's treated, and you have 1.3 seconds to initialize that positive reinforcement. That's how short a span you have there. So it was very interesting to watch the small children as they were there with big eyes and big ears, just taking all this in. And it wasn't long the next morning after we got home that Joel was doing it already with new 6, 7, 8-week-old puppies, trying to train these. And as soon as they would come towards him, they would get a treat, but as they walk away, they wouldn't get a treat. So those are some of the great highlights that we have, is to see our children, our workers, capitalizing on the people that are what we consider the professionals and handing that information to us.
I love that so much because you can't force people to change. I know that you said, like at the beginning of our call, that um, the public pressure did help you change some things or help you decide that maybe you should change things. But truly, it's the mindset. Like once your community was presented with different ways of doing better, or this training, seeing the human animal bond and seeing how dogs react to people and to treats, like that changes your mindset. It's not something we could have passed a law to force.
That's right. It's just same. I have used this example already. Is let's say my wife is a baker, and she bakes bread in an oblong bowl, and the general public decides that we don't want oblong bread, but we would take a circle bread or something else. So you have to go with what the general public is after. You can't sell something that they don't want. So as the general public is wants and demands that these puppies are raised in better environments, and which I think is great. It's been amazing what the last 5 or 10 years have brought to us. Probably one of our biggest challenges that was maybe a slowdown for us a little bit was COVID, 2020 to 2022 era, to where the demand for puppies was through the ceiling. And we had a lot of people that had absolutely no interest in the well-being of the canine or the puppy, but they jumped into this because they seen the financial end of it. That's what they were after. So that a lot of those people have gone to the wayside as the demand for puppies has diminished a little bit. And truly the ones that are in for the long haul are still here and are still doing it same as they were in COVID and prior to COVID.
Right. And you're doing just as much work internally to end bad breeding practices as I am externally. And I don't think people can recognize that yet, but it's true. The work you have done and the conversations you've had and the people you've reached has done more to turn subpar kennels into amazing kennels than I could ever do.
Absolutely. I agree with you. And it will, as long as this world is still going, that will always be a challenge for us, is to try to show people that it can be done very humanely and very the right way, instead of maybe not the correct way or whatever. And again, it goes back to the well-being of the animal.
Right. So I'm going to ask you one more question and then we can wrap up, I promise. If someone were to ask you, what tips should they look out for when they're buying a puppy, what would you tell a customer? How do they know they're supporting a humane breeder?
So, and that's a very good question. So try to find, if you're buying direct from the person, I go back to, again, if people are not willing to show at least partially, they might not take you right into the main kennel because of biosecurity or whatever it might be. But if they can't show you where that puppy was born and raised, where mom and dad live, and that's always would be a question for me. Is, again, I don't want pride to come in the way, but we're very excited with what we have, and we're not embarrassed to show people how we do it and why we do it, because we have a passion for it.
Right.
And and I think a lot of times that little puppy has a story to tell. And one of the things that one of my mentors always told me is, he said, just remember that puppy that you sell today will probably be sleeping in somebody's bed tonight. So with that theory, we always try to take our puppies in that direction, as far as from crate training, having them away from mom and in with siblings, and then maybe alone, and just all those little things that will make a puppy's transition so much easier, instead of some of the environments where some of these puppies are being raised. So asking a lot of questions. They're if you're buying from a pet store, where are those puppies being sourced from? Is it from a reliable source, or is it somebody that they don't really want to talk about, or is it somebody that is very proud to say that the majority of my breeders are canine care certified, they're federally licensed, they're state licensed, they're AKC inspected, and all those things? Or is it from somebody that they're afraid to mention the name of? Those are things that I would ask.
And that's something that you and I have always agreed on. Even the pet stores should tell you the breeders that they're buying from. If you're buying that puppy, you want to know the breeder.
That's right.
So,
That's
yeah.
right. And going back to the one of the things that Mindi kind of opened my eyes to was, at first I couldn't quite understand why Mindi was so against pet stores, and she kind of told me the story of this. This is only an example, but the broker pays me $500 for my puppy. The broker sells the puppy to the pet store for another $500 extra, so it's $1,000. But then the pet store wants to market that puppy for $5,000 or more, 5 times more. And yet, what did that pet store or the pet store owner do to make that puppy a great puppy or not so great a puppy? That all goes down to the bread and butter of where that puppy was raised from. Same as raising a child. What they learn up to 2 years old will set the rest of their life. And I look at it the way that puppy was raised up to 8 weeks old will set itself up for success or failure the rest of its life.
Right. And so that all of that is to say, you and I have things we agree on, and then there are going to be things we don't necessarily agree on, but we can still be friends and talk about those things.
Absolutely true.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And we want more people to join us in this, right? We don't want it to just be small little silos of people talking. Like, we think it's time for people to just understand you might be completely different than who I am as a person, but it's okay. We have the same goal.
That's right. Very true. Very true.
Well, thank you, Devon. Is there anything you want to say? Anything else?
No, I just, with Mindi and what you have done for us, we really appreciate, you being open-minded, you and Alexis. I think there was probably quite a bit of apprehension the first time that you and your partner and me and my wife climbed into that 15-passenger van, not knowing, how the outcome will be, but never, on our part, never did we think that it would be a lifelong friendship that was created, because we both agree that we do not approve of substandard kennels.
Right, right. And we are friends and our families enjoy each other. And yeah, well, thank you for everything, Devon. Please give Marietta a hug for me and your kids, and congrats on the new baby. So exciting when families get to grow. So, yeah, well, thank you for everything, Devon.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks, Mindi. I appreciate your time and what you've done for us. If there's anything you need from us, we're a phone call away.
And that's the same here. You know you've got friends here if you need anything.
Okay, sounds good.
All right.
Have a good one.
You too. Bye, Devon. You have a great day.
You too. See ya.